Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about financial planning. And I know everybody just went, ew. It's kind of like if I say we're going to talk about sales, right? That's one of those things we don't want to talk about. But we're not going to be talking about, now this is where you should invest your money this year, or you need to budget $50 a month for this. No, we might get into something in there, but we're going to be talking more about your mindset and really how you need to think about your finances. And so we're going to have so much fun today, and I can't wait to talk more with my guest. And so please join me in welcoming Bob Wheeler to our program today. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you so much, Deb. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, let me tell people about you, and then we'll jump into this.
Sounds good.
So Bob Wheeler inspires people with his financial acuity, compassion, and genuine energy, sharing his simple and effective concept, the money nerve, regarding emotions and money. He teaches people from all walks of life how to create a healthy relationship with money. His crusade for personal growth and deeper awareness developed from his 30 years of helping clients while bearing his soul on stage as a stand-up comedian. Digging down to find clarity and purpose on a personal level motivated Bob to help others to explore their past without judgment and to provide insight for people to recalibrate their mental mindset. Knowing that shame and personal memories about money can affect numbers-based budgets, Bob's passion to help others gain an understanding about emotional triggers that often sabotage financial decisions is transforming lives for thousands of people. Integrating an intentional mind-body balance of energy, certified radical aliveness and core energy practitioner, Bob has conducted numerous proactive abundance and money at its core seminars through the U.S. and Canada. Holy schmoly, Bob. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. So love to have these conversations.
And I love that you mix everything.
Yeah.
And because that's really what it is. We got to get that right brain and that left brain going. But a big part of our financial difficulties comes in the conversations we have with ourselves.
Right.
And a lot of those conversations started when we were, knee high to a grasshopper. But let's go back a bit, because you've got a varied background. I mean, CPA, stand-up comedian, all these things. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's funny. I actually was set to be a lawyer. That's what I was going to be a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And like everybody else, I took accounting and Latin to help me keep my grade point up.
Right.
Accounting was just something that came easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just took that as electives when I was going through college. And I realized this was something that I could do well. It was easy. And so I think I spent my whole life trying to get out of accounting because I was always like, that's not what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found is that I loved working with numbers.
Okay.
I loved working with people and helping educate people.
Okay.
And I originally thought going into accounting would be a great way to learn about different businesses that I could then start my own business, not realizing that my business would be an accounting firm.
Right.
And, I started out with a few people and then went to 100 clients and then a couple hundred clients to over 1,000 clients. And it just kept building. And it was all referrals. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going pretty good. I got into stand-up because it was, for me, I had always had this thing, people would say, you're funny. But somehow being in the back of an accounting office is not the way to get discovered.
No, and you don't think of accountants as being funny.
Nope. Oh, Bob Newhart. That's the only one.
This is true. Yeah.
But so I started doing comedy and it went well and people thought I was funny occasionally, and enough to encourage me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually doing the comedy is how I ended up becoming the CFO of the Comedy Store. Was Mitzi, one of my friends, told her they were having some financial troubles with the IRS, and she called me up and said, "You gotta help, come save the store." I'm like, okay. And so I the comedy opened up a lot of things for me, and that helped my business as well, because a lot of artists have struggles with money and still have to file taxes and all those things. And so it seemed to be a great combination. I use comedy and humor when I work with clients, because we're dealing with not such a fun topic.
Right. Finances can be really,
they're just not fun. And one of the big things that I discovered, which led me to write the book and led me to teaching workshops around money and emotions, was that I would sit down with people and give them what I thought was very sound, practical advice, and then they would do the opposite. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Right.
This makes no sense. It's very clear. And I think a lot of people think with numbers, everything's black and white.
Right.
But the reality is it's very gray. And once I realized that, until I understood where they were coming from psychologically, I couldn't really reach them.
Right.
And so that, along with my own journey of realizing I wasn't doing everything right financially. I was a CPA. There were people that didn't have titles in my office that were making better financial decisions than me, buying houses. And I'm like, why do I have debt? Why do I? And starting to look at my own journey of decisions that I made when I was knee high, of I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to ask for help, or, and I made some vows that when I was younger. And going back and looking at that helped me to then be able to say to people, I'm here not because I did everything right. I'm here being able to help you because I did a lot of stuff wrong. And I was willing to take a look at it and do the work.
Right. Right. And you mentioned your book, Bivana.
Oh,
it's called The Money Nerve, Navigating
Money Nerve.
the Emotions of Money.
Absolutely.
And I read it. It's quick read. Now, the nice thing is it's not just a book. It's a workbook.
It's a workbook.
And so there's lots of good stuff in there. But, one of the things that really struck me was exactly what I was talking about in the intro, that it's all in here. It's all these stories that we have told ourselves or were told as we were growing up. What the value of money was, all these various things. My parents both went through the Depression. So they had a very different view of money than even some of my classmates, because I was kind of one of those later kids. And so, I was remembering when I got my allowance, and it was a while ago, and so it wasn't very much. I think it was like maybe $5 at the most. But it was probably more like I got $1 a week. And, and I had chores that I was kind of supposed to maybe sort of do, not too much, but I did have to do something. And I remember I had classmates that were just, gee, mommy, I want, and they get. We were before the generation of getting our own credit cards. Luckily we never had that. But, if they said, gee, I want something, they got it. And, part of me was real resentful. Because, and then part of me, of course, would get mad at my parents. Well, why can't you just give me money?
Right.
And, and it never really occurred to me that they were teaching me that I needed to work for that.
Right.
And it wasn't, I wasn't cleaning sewers or doing anything horrible and awful. It was, clean your room, make your bed type of things. And so, that really was probably my first real conscious thoughts about money. Was, it was, I had to work for it. Other people didn't, and so those were just kind of some of the initial conversations I had.
Yeah. It's so interesting. We all learn different things and we all get different takeaways. I know, like with my maternal grandparents, my mom was an only child. They didn't necessarily feel worthy on whatever level. And so when we were young, they would say, we'll give you lots of money if you like us better than your other grandparents. We're like, okay.
Yeah, you're kids. You're like, sign us up.
No, we're in. Okay, I'll take the fishing pole. I'm happy with the $500 in my bank account, right? And so as a young kid, it sounded really cool. It wasn't until later that I realized, oh, wow, they didn't feel like, it was sad. they didn't feel like they were enough. And like, we take away these different things. And I know for me growing up, I thought that my worth was in my accomplishments. So even now, I know that it's not, but I still like, wait, I have to make sure I did 1,000 tax returns and I took a really amazing trip. And there's still a part of me, I'm aware of it, but it still has a tug.
Right. And we do still have to count things, like you mentioned 1,000 tax returns. Okay. Well, that might be part of your business plan, that your goal is to do 1,000, and so but it's not that your self-worth should be tied up into that.
Correct.
And I think that's the tricky thing is we get our self-worth tied up in money. Now, we need money. Hello.
Absolutely.
Somebody say, I've had Bitcoin explained to me numerous times, and I just don't get this pretend money stuff. But the point is, do we have to be better than the Joneses, or your neighbors or whoever? And I think that's what, especially my generation, was in many ways brought up to believe. That's one of the things I love about millennials. They're like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always say, hey, I might not even like the Joneses. Right. Why do I want to be like them or better than them? How about I just go create my own? And I do think that's, I know with my parents, it was trying to one up and really present in a way that, look how we present. And I'm interested in showing up authentically. And if it feels good, great. I like working with clients that I love. I don't like working with clients that I don't like. I want to have choice. And I think in the past it was, you've got to do whatever it takes to get ahead financially. Right.
And, and then we, of course, have those things in our mind that tell us what levels we're supposed to reach and what it is to be successful, whether it's the big house, the fancy car, the whatever. I remember long ago when we had our 10th year high school reunion. Now, I had a little class. We had 32 that graduated from my high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know. And now it's like 5. I mean, it's itsy bitsy. But anyhow, we had, so we were gathering and, we were going to do the normal things that you do at a class reunion. We were going to give awards. Who came the furthest? Who had the most kids? Those type of things.
Right.
But then we had someone who said, we need to say who's the most successful.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at him and I said, as according to who? Because, and luckily I was smart enough to, be thinking this through, because I said, I'm sorry, and the person she thought was most successful was the person who had the biggest house and all of those things. Right. I happen to know that was probably one of the most unhappy people. But I said, I'm thinking that the person who has 4 kids, here we were, we'd only been out of school 10 years. She already had 4 kids, but you saw the joy that emanated from her. Did they have much? No. I mean, poor 4th kid was wearing something that had been worn 3 other times before. Right. But, and that I think is, and you talk about this in your book, is defining to ourselves those terms. What is success? What is financial success? I mean, one person might think, okay, I really do have to make $1 million a year. And that is, and that's not to say they're wrong. That's just their goal.
That's their journey. That's theirs. Yeah. I think, when you talk about what is success, I took a trip to Africa several years ago, and the average income there was $100 a year. And these people were so happy.
I know.
And I couldn't reconcile. I kept going, but they don't have a Mercedes. They're living in huts. And they don't have clean. They don't have DVD players. They don't have
internet.
Oh my God. Right. And all of them come back and visit, come back. And it really began the journey for me to realize what is truly success. It's relationships, it's memories, it's experiences. It's all of that for me is what is where I find my pure joy.
Right. And you talk about the money nerve, and it's so funny because when you were talking about the money nerve in your book and things, of course, the first thing I think of is like when you hit your funny bone,
right?
That there's that feeling.
That's right.
And so that's what you're doing in your book and through a lot of what you work people through is what is that yeah part,
Right.
and is it, if somebody says you need to really have a budget, that's probably going to be where I go yeah at you,
A lot of people
and
do.
yeah, and luckily I have a husband that goes, okay. Um, but it's, and we need to recognize that we have that hot button, or maybe buttons.
Absolutely. It's funny, when I was first working on the book, and my editor said to me, well, it's great you're writing this book about money and emotions, but I don't actually make any emotional decisions. And I said, oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I said, that's amazing. Well, let me ask you this. She goes, okay. I said, when you go out to lunch with your dad, who pays? And she goes, oh, well, he does. I miss a little princess. I said, well, who pays? Who pays when you go out with your mom? She goes, well, I do, because I feel so bad that my dad left her. And I said, okay, well, who pays when you go out with your sister? She goes, oh, we pay 50-50 because we're equal. Oh my God. Okay. I get it.
Right.
Right. It's even those little decisions of who pays the bill, or do you split the check, or do you try and get the dessert and get somebody else to pay for it? Like, we all make emotional decisions every single day. Am I going to buy a nice lunch so that nobody else knows that I really can't afford the lunch? Am I going to take the trip so that everybody's impressed with me? Or am I going to just say, yeah, not for me today?
Right. And unfortunately, I think especially here in the United States, we are a very money oriented culture.
Yes.
If it's, you were talking about, eating, it's like, what do you mean you're bringing a brown bag?
Yeah.
And or worse, it starts much earlier with, well, you're on the lunch program at school.
Right.
And, so,
Right.
and, they're eating, and they're probably eating better than, than a lot of them, but
exactly.
and that but it's been a challenge. And, as we record this, we're still, for the most part, in the pandemic lockdown, which, let's be honest, I'm not sure that there is anybody that it hasn't financially affected. Now some have actually benefited. I mean, good for them. They had a product, a service, whatever, where they were able to do something, to be able to be okay. A lot of people are just tightening their belts and hoping they get through it. But there are, unfortunately, so many people who are thinking, we don't know what to do. And I mean, when that very first mortgage payment hit, or rent payment hit, and and they weren't sure they were going to make it, it was not good. And it was interesting because, again, as I was reading your book, I was thinking, now is the time for everybody, when we're thinking about this, that we need to be taking those steps, those belt tightening steps. Did we really need to go to Starbucks every day?
Every day. Absolutely. And I think, it's interesting. I most of my clients are entrepreneurs, and I have a lot of people in the entertainment business, but all walks
who
of life.
cannot do anything right now.
Who cannot do anything. They can't edit. They can't be on the show. All of that. And I think a lot of those people, even though they're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, they're still living check to check.
Right.
And I think this was a real wake up call for a lot of people. We've uncomfortably had to sit with the reality of, oh, maybe I didn't have as much money coming in.
Right.
And then, do I really need to go and get a coffee every day? Oh, actually, I think it's forced us to see what we can live with.
Right.
Oh, I guess I can eat canned soup. I don't have to get my sushi every night at the restaurant. And we've had to be, I think one of the benefits is we've been forced to be more in communication with each other.
Right.
Like, at least with the immediate people. I know in my neighborhood, people wave from a distance.
I know. I love doing that. We're getting together every Saturday night. The end of our cul-de-sac here, we get together, we social distance, but we get together. Yeah. We were friendly with each other before, but it's great fun.
It's great finding creative ways to, like, how do we connect, and how do we get by on a smaller budget? And this is a great time to look through and go, really, do I really need all the premium channels on cable? Right. Do I really, have I been using that gym membership even before COVID? And where are the places that we're just wasting money because it was convenient, or I didn't have time? And now we're having to sit and look at a lot of that and,
Mhm.
and actually really reevaluate our priorities.
Right. And uh, it's cool because yes, there are so many negatives, but you also see, you mentioned, I think so many people are now spending time with their families.
Yes. Heaven forbid.
I know. And it's funny because, you know, I laugh. I'm not a parent. So I didn't all of a sudden have kidlets that were home needing to be taught.
Yeah.
And bless those people who not only did that, but they had a spouse that might have all of a sudden been home, or they were working from home. And so many things that were going on. But, it really, I think it has made us look at things differently. Like one of the things, that we've been thinking about with our little cul-de-sac thing is doing movies, like a drive-in movie type of thing.
Right.
We've got
Right.
a big enough space where we could put up a big screen and all sorts of stuff. And I had the technology, so I could do that. And because we've been moaning and groaning, we couldn't go to the movies, we couldn't do that. Well, why not just do it ourselves?
Right.
And one person said, "Oh, I'll bring the popcorn," and another person said, "Hey, I'll bring the drinks," and all of this. We might end up spending as much as if we'd gone to the movie, but it's going to be so much more fun.
Yeah, it gets to be interactive. And
Mhm.
when you were talking about having to be the teacher, all these
Mhm.
people having to teach their kids, I think
Mhm.
there's probably a new appreciation for teachers.
Mhm. Oh, and that's one of those things that I would hope for many years. The next time the teachers and nurses and service provider, anybody, if anytime they say we need a raise, we're all like, yeah, yeah,
Yep, there you go. You
yeah.
got it. No repeats. No
Mhm.
repeats.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think there's a lot of positive that's come
Mhm.
out of this. I think we always have to we can choose to look for the silver lining. And I
Mhm.
think that's an important thing for me too, when you're starting a business,
Mhm.
to entrepreneurs out there, is we get to choose our attitudes.
Right.
So we can say,
Mhm.
okay, there's some things that we're going to have to work through.
Mhm.
And what are the good things that we're going to learn from
Mhm.
this?
Right. Right. And I think that really is one of the things that, because we do in many cases have more time.
Yeah.
I've had several people who, I'm in Atlanta, you're out in California. All of a sudden, how much time are we getting just from not driving?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Several hours for some people every day.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing with that? And excuse me, for many people, it's highly possible that this is going to continue. Now, they are opening Hollywood back up. They will be, doing all sorts of things. But I think that as much as possible, people are going to be working from home,
Yeah.
whether by choice or by force. And so we will have kind of that extra time.
Absolutely. And, I hope that people take advantage of the fact that they do have this extra time.
Mhm.
For all those people that have said, I want to learn to paint, or I want to learn a
Right.
language, or I want to write a book.
Mhm.
Now's the time. We all get
Mhm.
24 hours in a
Mhm.
day. Don't waste
Mhm.
it. This is a
Right.
great opportunity to
Mhm.
really focus on those things, or those side
Mhm.
hustles,
Mhm.
or those things you've been wanting to
Well,
explore.
yeah, it might be the perfect time to start a side hustle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, look at how many people are making masks. I mean, now granted, that will hopefully go away,
Right.
but who knows what they'll transition to. I mean, it could very easily be we just made masks and now we're done. But yeah, so we get very innovative when we have to be.
Exactly. And who would have thought, if last October I came to you and said, I'm going to start a mask making business, you would have said, you're an idiot.
I know. Why? Yeah, yeah.
Jump to April, pretty
Mhm.
brilliant move,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's timing, but
Mhm.
just being aware
Mhm.
and
Right.
being conscious
Mhm.
of opportunity. And
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of opportunities right now.
Right. Right. And of course we're talking about not taking advantage. We're talking
Right.
about doing things the right way and all of those. And
Absolutely.
and of course along with that, this is a business program. So, if you're setting up a side hustle, do it the way you should. First
Right.
person you should probably talk to is an attorney, and the next
Right.
person you should probably talk to is a CPA.
Yep.
And especially because we're not going to, I always tell people there's not a lot of things that I'm afraid of, but the IRS terrifies me.
Yes.
And if you all of a sudden have a bunch of cash coming in, they still want their part.
They still do. I have a lot of retail stores that don't understand the sales tax doesn't belong to them.
I know, but it's in my drawer.
It's right there. It's mine.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's there temporarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, and because again, this might turn into full time, and or something. And so if you've set it up properly, you've become a legal entity, all of those various things, then you're several steps ahead. One of the things that and we started this process before, and now we're finishing it, but it actually got delayed because of this, was a trademark. And, and it was interesting because, the process still went through, it just went slower.
Right.
But it was one of those things I'd put off. And I thought, probably should get to working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about setting up a business right, even just having the conversation with an attorney and a CPA,
Right.
because I have certain clients where I advise them, don't incorporate right now. Right now,
Right.
Don't spend the money. What you could do is do a Schedule C.
Right. Yeah, there are ways to put it on your taxes.
We can still take care of it. Or let's do it as an LLC right now, and later on we'll convert it to an S corp because it's an easy fix. But let's save the money. Like, I'm always about, let's only spend the money if we need to.
Right.
I like to hold on to my money if I don't have to part with it. But having those conversations can save you a whole lot of headache down the line.
Right.
Or, and I know that maybe this is a bad example, but it's a funny example because it happens a lot for me. Whenever I have a client come in who's pregnant, she tells me that she's going to start a baby clothesline. And she's always like, we're going to start a baby clothesline and we're going to do this. It's going to be amazing. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds great. Let's do this. After you have the baby, come back to me 2 months later and let's work out the plan.
Yeah. And you tell me how much time you've got.
Yeah. They never come back.
No.
They don't, because, but it sounds good at the time because they're looking at baby clothes. They're looking at, and they see it. But the reality is when you've got a screaming baby,
you're not making rompers for somebody else.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
and as you're setting the business up, we mentioned CPA. I mean, that is something that you have to take into account.
Yeah.
What are the startup costs? Are you going to have to buy inventory to make something? If I had somebody say, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go into business as a speaker," and I went, "Virtual?"
Right.
And and I said, it's going to be a long time, really, for something where we're packing a room full of people.
Absolutely.
And even at that, there's going to be so many different things that are going on. And so I said, okay, this is great, but think of it as how you can do it virtually, and so, that was kind of, they went down that road. But, and it was funny when I was starting my business, so many years ago, I actually did get some really good financial advice and things that I mean, one of the things that somebody told me that was probably one of the best pieces of advice I got was have my bank account separate from my personal one. Not just account, bank. So we were with the credit union for personal, and my business bank was somebody totally different. Yeah. And I remember thinking, well, this is the stupidest thing in the world. How inconvenient is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And their response was, that's why you need to do that, because then you're not mixing your money. It's very difficult for you to, be robbing Peter to pay Paul, shall we say. I could still easily write myself a check, right, or, do whatever, but it made it one step away. And that really that was one of the best pieces of financial advice I think I ever got.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because it reminds me of myself. Two things. One, it reminds me, same thing with savings accounts. Don't have it attached as an overdraft, because then it's not really savings.
Right.
But I remember for me, when I first started on my own, I still had doubts as to whether I could be successful. I'd have every year I would think none of my clients are going to come back. And then I'd get more. And then I'd go next year. Nobody's going to, the first 4 or 5 years I was,
so they're going to find out I don't know what I'm talking about.
They're like, why are they coming to me? And And so when I set up the business account separate, I could see the business being successful, but I
Right.
couldn't quite see me being successful.
Mm.
So when I started treating the business as a separate entity, I was able to make it thrive, and it kept
Right.
going, oh, I'm like,
Ah, look at
oh,
there.
ah.
Mhm.
So I really needed that
Mhm.
delineation
Mhm.
and separation, and until I got my own confidence.
Right.
Right. And then I went, oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe
I'll
I'm
be darned,
making
I
this
can do
happen.
this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, um, so
You know, and it comes back to what we were saying. It's those conversations that you're having with yourself. You know, how many times have we been told, whether we were little or, you know, when you can't do that?
right.
You know, or why would you want to? Why would you want to be your own business? Why would you want to have your own
Don't do
business?
that.
Yeah, you know, and I'll be the first to admit, you know, that I have a husband who is successful, who has, you know, has good insurance, has good benefits. So I understand that does make life a little bit easier for me.
Right.
But, you know, it really is, we do have those conversations, and unfortunately, I think we get more of them as women, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, and tragically, there are a lot of the, you're not smart enough to do
Right.
that conversations. And, you know, sometimes it's, you know, your math teacher, your English teacher, your parent. You know, I remember one time my grandmother was having a conversation with me and my cousin, and we were little, and she was gushing about my cousin. And I knew, you know, I always knew my cousin was the favorite. You know, I
Right.
didn't, you know, like, that was just kind of how we grew up. So I didn't, you know, and she literally pats me on the head, but she'd been, you know, she's going to be successful doing this, and she's going to be successful doing that, yada, 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 yada. And she pats me on the head and she says, it's a good thing you're smart. And actually I thought, yep.
Yes, it is.
You know?
That's absolutely, you know, it's interesting. Both my grandmothers were very independent women, went to college,
Mm.
which
Wow.
was not the
Mhm.
norm.
Mhm.
But I think there was a little bit of anger there
Mhm.
because they were really expected just to get their MRS
Right. Oh yeah.
and just submit and do the right
Mhm.
thing. And they were very independent minded,
Mhm.
and which was not the norm.
No. No.
And I do, you know, it's interesting you say with women, you know, getting a little bit of that a lot more. I think
Mhm.
they do. Successful women, successful people, you know, there's the imposter
Mhm.
syndrome.
Right.
There have been lots and lots of studies where
Mhm.
women will not take into account that they have the experience, that
Mhm.
they've got the education,
Mhm.
that they have the
Right.
knowledge, and
Mhm.
they'll take themselves out saying, well, there's probably somebody smarter than
Mhm.
me. I
Right.
don't, people are going to find out.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us, as we have success, start to doubt, like, people are coming to me for advice.
Mhm.
If they only knew, right? Because
Mhm.
most of us, I believe most of us are trying to be functioning adults,
Mhm.
even though sometimes we're operating from a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old
I
or a
tried to go to my
combination.
fort cave today and it just didn't work.
It didn't work. Didn't work. Hey, I'd love to be back on allowance
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
saying, I
Yeah.
want this.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you know, we do have to try to be functioning adults.
We do. And a lot of us, most of us, actually do know what we're doing.
Mhm.
And we just haven't maybe been supported in that way
Mhm.
or come to believe it,
Right.
whether it's us or somebody else
Mhm.
telling us that. And I
Right.
think when you're an entrepreneur, like, trust yourself
Mhm.
and really, like, get comfortable with yourself.
Mhm.
And we're all going to make mistakes. I've
Right.
not done
Mhm.
everything perfectly.
Mhm.
And sometimes people will say, well, if I have my own business, people are going to see me. They might judge me.
Mhm.
They might think I'm whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm like, great,
Mhm.
still do it anyway. Yes, step up,
Mhm.
have success, let people get mad,
Mhm.
know that's part of the process,
And fix
and,
it.
and fix it and do it anyway. Show up.
Mhm. Right. Right. Why do you think it is that we do have such a bugaboo about money? You know, and we just, and I don't know that it's more women than men. I mean, you know, girls are told we're not good at math.
Right.
You know, and that does tend to, you know, and you know, thank God for STEM programs now and things like that. But you know, why are we afraid of money?
Well, I think it's a combination of cultural. I think there's religion plays a part of it. I think, it's interesting in the workshops that I do, how many people will say they want to be wealthy or financially secure. And then 5 minutes later, when I ask them what they think of rich people, they're like, I hate rich people.
Yeah.
Rich people are
Ew.
greedy, right? They're evil.
Mhm.
So we have this double standard of rich people are all these bad things. And I want to be one, but I don't want to be that kind of person. So
Right.
maybe I should just skip it out
Mhm.
and not do it.
Mhm.
And for me, money is opportunity to be able to serve people, to be able to
Mhm.
help people. There's a lot of good we can do with money. So I think there's a lot of shame in being too, like if we're too showy,
Mhm.
look, I'm successful.
Right.
Oh, you're boasting, you're bad. Religion, I think, plays a little piece of that. At least I grew up in the South, so there's a bit of don't be too flashy. Make sure you're
And
doing,
make sure you tithe enough.
make sure you tithe enough, at
Mhm.
least 10%.
Mhm.
And so I think that plays in a little bit, that we got to give it to other people,
Mhm.
and it's not okay to have joy and pleasure around our successes. And I think, our parents and grandparents and people that grew up in the Depression and stuff like that, I'm a bit frugal, so I'm always like, you never know. You got to
Mhm.
save extra money.
Right. And then
I'm
look what
like,
happens. There's a pandemic.
right.
Hello.
And I get to be right. I was like, I'm right. Because we like to be right too.
Yes, of course.
We do like to be right. But yeah, I mean, I think I grew up in the wrong era, because I do tend to be, my friends call me cheap. I say I'm frugal. I spend where I love to spend. I
Yeah.
spend on
Mhm.
travel. I spend
Right.
on friends.
Right.
But I don't spend on clothes. I'm like tight with this and that. I do bring my own lunch, but then I go out and spend $200 on sushi and I feel great about it, because I try to find the balance.
Right.
But I do think that there's a lot of shame around money.
Mhm.
Either there's some people, I have a lot of clients that feel guilty that they make so much, or that they are trust fund babies, or that it came easy.
Right.
And then there's other people that are jealous, or why that come from a victim point of view. Why does everybody else get the good stuff? And I have clients, I've worked with people where inheriting money is part of their financial plan.
Right.
And I'm like, gosh, what happens if it's gone?
Right. That's almost like those people who plan on winning the lottery.
Right. Right. And I've seen it go south several times for people that thought they were going to inherit. Like for me, my mantra has always been, don't wait for your ship to come in, go out and build it yourself.
Right. Swim
Right?
out there.
Swim out there, build your ship. Like, don't wait. Like, be proactive in your success when you're creating your business. Go out, listen to your clients, be curious, be in integrity, and like make it happen instead of just waiting for it to happen. What's that saying? Good luck comes with a lot of hard work.
Right. Yeah. And back to having that conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
Reminding yourself that you worked hard for it and you deserve it.
Absolutely.
I went yeet at $200 of sushi, but that's because I'm not a huge sushi fan. And I also thought, oh my gosh, $200. But you worked hard for that and you deserve it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd splurge on something totally different.
Absolutely.
And I think that probably for quite a while, we're going to see a lot of belt tightening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are some people who, they're just going to be financially completely, totally devastated. And, but now really is the time to think about it, and I mentioned this at the start that, I was, going through your book thinking now is a good time for this.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just devastated, it's probably not the time. Maybe it is the time to, remember it's not your fault.
Right.
And sure, you might not have invested well in all these things. Okay, have your pity party.
Right.
And then figure out how to get out of it.
That's right. And then pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
And asking for help is okay. And that's what's been interesting about all of the pandemic is all of the things that are coming from it. Whether it's 0% financing on cars, or no payments for whatever, or the loans, all of these various things. Now, I do find it interesting, the people that are choosing to stay on unemployment because they're earning more.
Right.
Just because
Yeah.
I was brought up that unemployment was bad, but
Yeah.
it's still more, and so it's like, oh, I don't know. But I did have an interesting conversation with somebody who was telling me I needed to apply for the a self-employment loan.
Right.
And I said, but I don't need it. I said,
Right.
I'm doing fine. Well, you should apply for it, but I don't need it. But
Right.
you should apply for it because you can get it. I said, but I don't need it.
Right.
and I finally thought, he and I are just not going to be on the same page, and just stop having this conversation.
Yeah.
And then I know somebody else who applied for it, got it, has it off in a completely separate bank account. Then if she needs it, it's there.
Right.
If not, it goes back.
It goes back.
But then of course we had the companies, the big steakhouses, the big companies of the world that applied for millions of dollars and got it through loopholes. And then, fortunately, a lot of them were like, "Ooh, this was the wrong thing to do." I don't know who wasn't there going, hello, you shouldn't be doing this. No, don't apply for that. Somebody's going to, but yeah, it has been interesting during the pandemic that there has been a lot of resources out there. Schools that are still providing lunches.
Right.
I mean, all these various things. And that's kind of where you have to have that conversation with yourself again and say, you know what, I need this. It's okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's the difference of having that conversation and being in integrity. Do I need help? Great. I need help. If I don't need help, my grandparents would come up from the grave and beat me if I went on unemployment. I've never gotten unemployment, even though I'm sure I was entitled to it, because I never needed it. And my grandparents always said, services are there for people that need it. And if you need it, you get it. If you don't need it, keep your hands off. That's for other people. Just because it's there doesn't mean I have to take it.
Right.
And I think, the one thing I think that's been good about the pandemic, because I do think money has been used as an isolation, right? I have enough money, I can build a fence and I don't have to talk to you. And because we've had to learn to actually be in community a whole lot more, and we've actually had to learn to ask for help, and we want to be in connection, I think that has helped break that barrier a little bit, because I do think this country has so much wealth that we've used money as a way to isolate.
Oh, definitely.
Keep you out of my neighborhood, keep you out of my city, whatever it is.
Right. Out of the country.
Yeah.
And that is tragic. But yeah, it is, I think it is, it's changing now.
It is.
The trick will be in a year. Where
do we sustain it? Do we sustain it?
Yeah. And we'll go back to some of it. I mean, I haven't been back to Starbucks yet, but it's just because I haven't been out and about.
Right.
And we have been at once a week ordering from a restaurant. And part of that is I'm just tired of cooking. Okay.
Right.
But then it is also, let's help the community. And so, we've been trying to do that. And, but yeah, and so will we continue that? I don't know. Probably, but it really is, it's been interesting. And as we were saying, it's hitting everybody, when it's hitting, and, we talk about people who are the multimillionaires who, say a sports figure who earns $10 million a year. Okay. I have a totally different view of, I'm they're football players, but supply and demand, I understand, yada, yada. But usually they have a bunch of people working for them.
That's right.
So, it's not just that they got that $10 million and it's sitting in the bank somewhere. They have staff they're paying. You talk about working with entertainers. Well, they're not just there in their, their little houses. They have staff. They have, they have all sorts of people that are working for, they're their own companies in essence.
That's right.
And so they're people they're having to take care of.
And usually they're taking care of their parents and their sister and their cousins and their best friend and the 20 other people that were with them along the way. So it's not, it's not like they just have all that money sitting.
Right. Yeah. And I keep talking about your book because I think it was a very valuable resource. One of the things in there that you talk about is baby steps.
Yeah.
I joke about, the person who goes to Starbucks every day.
Right.
Okay. So go to Starbucks Monday and Thursday.
That's right.
You don't have to go cold turkey.
You don't have to go cold turkey.
Yeah. You
But-
know, and then you're probably going to figure out, hey, I didn't go yesterday.
Right.
You know, and things like that. But yeah, this isn't, oh my gosh, we have to make drastic changes. Now, unfortunately, the pandemic in some cases did force that, because there were a lot of people who all of a sudden were not employed, you know, and hadn't planned on that, you know, and now there's also an awful lot of people who may be employed, but are thinking, well, we're probably going to get pay cuts. You know, but, you know, actually the pay cut thing, I mean, now is a really good time to be looking at, you know, going through your book and going, what do we need to cut?
What do we need to cut? Right.
Yeah. And if you don't get that pay cut, okay, let's save it. Now, maybe you're saving it to go on vacation. I mean, you know, we're not saying that you're saving it for the rest of the, you know, but yeah, you know, it's like now is not the tragic end of everything.
It's not. Right now is a great time to prioritize and think about, what's my mission in my life? Like, what do I want to accomplish? Where do I want to be financially? And how can I get there? And are my choices in alignment with what I say, what I want?
Right.
And, you know, I think one of the big things right now is, because we're all mostly locked up, the media can't tell us, well, go have it now, right? The media, I think, tells us we have to have everything immediate. We should never wait for delayed gratification. We should have it right now. We deserve
still like
it.
Amazon, but
Yeah. Well, even though I hear people saying, I have to wait 3 weeks now.
I know, or 2 or 3 days. I had to wait 2 or 3 days, and I was like,
this is so sad, right? So I think it's forcing us a little bit to slow down and not have this instant gratification every moment of the day, which we've been very used to. And so I hope that people will take a little bit away from this, of saying, well, let me think about this. Like, I know when I make big purchases, I always wait a day, you know, before I do something. I always tell people, even if you're single, blame it on your spouse.
Right.
They won't let me make a decision, right? If you can't talk your way out of it, blame it on a spouse.
Yeah.
Because everybody's
or your
like,
business partner. I'm
Or your
sorry, I've
business
got to
partner.
go ask them.
I got to check it out. And then go back later and decide if you really, really need it. Because a lot of times it's just in that moment, it feels good.
Right.
I have so many things that I bought in the past where I just wanted it. I've never used it.
Yep.
And I ended up giving it away. It was just a waste of money, but it felt good.
It was pretty.
It's pretty.
Or I don't know why I just thought of this. I was in my 20s, young, single, and I bought a set of pots and pans from a guy who came to the door and sold pots and pans.
Yeah.
There was no way on A, I didn't cook, but B, there was no way I could afford them. But oh my, was he handsome.
There you go.
And, you know, and it took me a while, but I was smart enough, you know, I knew at that point in Colorado, I knew what Colorado law was. And so I knew that I could change my mind, and they had to come get my pots and pans and you know, and all of that. But yeah, you know, we make those snap decisions.
We do.
And, you know, most of the time it really can wait 24 hours or even more.
Right. And most of the time we probably don't even need it.
Right.
You know, but we've just gotten so used to now. And so I do think this has forced us to slow down.
Right.
And prioritize.
Right.
So, you know, I see that as a blessing, because I think some of our habits will change for the better. And
so what are some other baby steps that you think we should be taking?
Well, I think for me, like, if people right now are worried about debt and savings, I think there's a baby step of, like, some people will say, pay off your debt first before you start saving. I disagree with that. I think you have to do both at the same time, because I think you have to learn a new habit. And so even if you're putting away $10 a week and paying down $50 of debt, you're still reinforcing a new habit of saving. Because what I find a lot of people is they'll say, oh, when I get a big check, when I get a bonus, when I get a windfall,
when I get my tax refund,
then I'm going to do it. Right. And then we're always putting it off until a later time. And for me, it's about creating healthy habits now. I'd rather start saving $5 now than wait until a really good time to start saving $500.
Right. Because that never is going to come.
It's never going to come most of the time. And so I think really looking at that, and I think the other baby step is to really start looking at your budgets and be honest. I know so many people that will not count the fact that they need to buy a bottle of wine, or they need to buy a purse, or they need to buy lottery tickets. And, you know, I joke with people. I'm like, look, if you have an addiction, you need to put it in the budget. I'm not judging the addiction.
No.
I'm just saying we need to budget for it, because you keep saying, why am I short? Well, because you're not accounting
You're
for the
short
money you're
because
spending.
you drink a $100 bottle of wine.
Right. And so again, it's not about judging. It's really about being honest and about saying, is this important to me? And getting clear. So for me, it's baby steps in. If I want to start a business, what are the baby steps? Do the research, find out the tools that I need. If I'm trying to set goals for, you know, I use a jacuzzi a lot as an example, because it's a lot of people think that's like life is good if you have a jacuzzi. Like, figure out what you need and then take baby steps towards it. You don't have to do it all tomorrow. You don't have to do it all today, but you can start laying the foundation and start saying, okay, in a year, I need this to happen. How do I make that happen? And so then, as if I know my goal a year from now, then as I'm getting ready to go buy that Starbucks coffee, oh, wait, maybe I'd rather put this $5 towards my project or towards my business. Oh, maybe I can, you know, do Starbucks twice a week. And so really starting to take things in digestible bites instead of trying to do it all at once. So the baby steps came to me when I was in, and I think this is in the book, but I was at Mount Everest and we were hiking, and we'd spent all this money, and it was my second time there, and everybody wanted to quit after the first day. My team of people went,
this is hard.
This is hard. Let's quit. And I went, no.
You came all this way.
We spent a lot of money. And so I negotiated, let's just hike for an hour. And then at the end of each hour, we would renegotiate another hour. And
if you stopped for the evening, you stopped for the evening.
And then that was it. And it was a renegotiation every time. So there was no pressure. And I found that in so many aspects of my life, when I do it in digestible bites, it's so much easier than trying to see the big mountain that you got to get to, but just actually see what's right in front of you. And the more we can do baby steps and not try to put the pressure on ourselves to get it all done perfectly, immediately, without any resistance, the more that we can actually have things come to fruition.
You know, and it's interesting because I had somebody the other day I was talking to who said, now is the time to buy some things. You know, he said, oh my God, if you need a new car, now is when you really should be buying a new car.
That's right.
You know, renegotiating your lease. If you rent, you know, be renegotiating that lease. I mean, the least they're going to tell you is no.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I mean, just look at everything that is, it's funny. I listen here in Atlanta to a radio station, and they have a financial guy every morning that gives a minute worth of thing. And he said, clothes shopping right now has never been better because all of the retail places have been closed. And, you know, and he said, so, you know, their winter stuff that they never got to sell is deep discounts. And their summer stuff, they're thinking, oh my God, we're not going to get to sell it either. And so he was talking about, you know, he'd gotten, you know, $40 shirts for $5 and, you know, all this stuff. But yeah, now might be the time. But again, you know, look at your finances. Don't just go, oh, you know, I need to go do this. And then, oops, I can't pay my rent.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you know, it is something to be looking at. And, you know, and the one thing that we didn't talk about that I think, you know, we need to really briefly talk about, but it is an extremely important subject, is, you know, be talking with your kids and your family about this.
Absolutely. I'm amazed at how many people do not include their children in the conversations. And, you know, just like you talked about, your parents were educating you and teaching you in that, I think it's so important to actually say to the kids, you know, well, the reason we're not able to do this is there's a limited amount of money right now. And we can either choose to live in the house or we can buy you a bunch of toys. And right now is not the time, but later on, or if we save and educate, you know, it's like, I remember, you know, my mom won't love this, but they used to tell me, brush my teeth or I'll spank, you know, you'll get a spanking. I think it would have been helpful if they had said, brush your teeth, because it's a healthy thing to do. And actually had given me some information. And I think if we talk to our kids like they're capable of understanding, which they are,
Right.
instead of keeping it hidden from them
Mm-hmm.
or making money conversations, money conflicts,
Mm-hmm.
or money arguments, but
Right.
actually conversations,
Mm-hmm.
that they'll grow up with a much healthier
Mm-hmm.
understanding
Right.
of how
Mm-hmm.
finances
Right.
work.
Well, and especially right now, if your financial situation has changed,
Yeah,
they need to know. Now, I understand wanting to protect them and not
absolutely.
scare the
Right.
bejesus out of them.
We have nowhere to live.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But, I come back to the story that you have in your book about the little boy who'd been saving his pennies, saving his pennies, saving his
Yeah.
pennies. And he said, Dad, how much do you make an hour? And Dad was originally annoyed. Why do you need to
Right.
know? And then he finally said, this is a good teaching moment. And he
Right.
told him, well, he earns $20 an hour. Why? And the little boy said, because I want to buy an hour of your time.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
to me, yeah, I mean, that just comes back to all of it is we've been saying, we're spending more time with our families.
Yes.
The things that don't have financial value in so many cases are the things that are going to bring us the most success, the most pleasure, the most all of those things. And so, yeah, maybe right now, this darn pandemic has done us such a favor by making us slow down.
Absolutely. I have to tell the story real quick, but a client of mine was telling me he stopped working 80 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
because they decided they had this novel idea of spending time with their 5-year-old. And so he'd been about a month
Mm-hmm.
spending time with the kid. And he said his 5-year-old looked at his mommy and goes, Mommy, Daddy's not grumpy anymore. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh my God,
Right.
from the mouth of babes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he'd just been so busy that he didn't have
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Right.
then,
and he thought he was doing a good thing.
and he
He
did.
was doing the things so they could go to Disneyland and buy the biggest toys and all of that.
It's not what's important,
Yeah.
right?
He wanted
It's the
time with
relationship.
Dad.
He wanted time with Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is an excellent opportunity for people to really reinforce those relationships
Mm-hmm.
and really get to know your families
Right. Right.
and
Well,
love and
oh my
appreciate them.
gosh, Bob, we are almost at the top of the hour.
Oh my
We've
goodness.
been talking about your book. Hold it up again. It's called The Money Nerve, Navigating
Nerve.
the Emotions of Money. I have a digital version, folks. It's just not as pretty when I hold up my
Not
laptop.
as pretty.
But tell us how people find you and connect with you online.
So they can find me at themoneynerve.com, themoneynerve.com. You can buy the book. You can, we have an online course that helps people have a healthier relationship with money. And it's similar in that we work you through a lot of work processes. And if I've got an email on there and I reach out to people. I've got an amazing team of folks and we love to hear from people. I'm really happy to have conversations with people around money and helping them have a healthier relationship, whatever that looks like.
Cool. I love it. And again, that's called themoneynerve.com.
Yes.
And you can call and talk to the amazing Anthony, and ask to speak to Bob. But yeah, it's, and you do work, you work with kids who are graduating from college.
Yep.
These are your specialties with families and then with retirees.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, anybody in there is
anybody in there. We, we do taxes, we do financial coaching. I hold money workshops. We do international. I have a lot of international clients.
Right. And Zoom has now become everybody's best friend.
We work with all our clients through Zoom. We can show them their tax returns front and center. I love working with people. I love sharing the journey that I've had. It's not been fun and easy. And for everybody, it's not going to be fun and easy, but it's doable. And we love to hold space for that with no judgment and really work to help people have the fullest life they want.
Great. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts for everybody?
I would just say during this time right now, just keep breathing and practice patience and really spend the time thinking about what's important to me and really what's not only important to me now, but what's the legacy, what's the footprint that I want to leave when I eventually leave here? What's my legacy? Right.
I love it. Well, I've been having a wonderful time talking with Bob Wheeler. For all those people who, when we said we were talking financial, made a face, this was so much fun. So again, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a great time talking with Bob Wheeler. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.